You've been stretching wrong your entire life, and I can prove it. Right now, while you're watching this, reach down and touch your toes. Feel that tightness? That burning sensation in your hamstrings? That's not your muscles. It's not tight hamstrings or a weak lower back. What you're feeling, what's been holding you back from that extra yard of pace, that split-second faster turn, that ability to play 90 minutes without your legs turning to concrete is something most footballers have never even heard of. It's called fascia. And in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you how understanding this hidden system inside your body will unlock levels of performance you didn't know existed, eliminate pain you thought was permanent, and give you the kind of fluid, explosive movement that separates amateur players from the ones who make it look effortless. Let me start with something that's going to sound impossible. There's a web of tissue inside your body, wrapping around every single muscle fiber, every organ, every bone, connecting your foot to your shoulder, your hip to your neck in one continuous network. It's 6 times more sensitive to pain than muscle. It creates more force than muscle when it's trained properly. And when it's damaged or restricted, it can steal your power, limit your range of motion, and cause pain in places that seem completely unrelated to the injury. This is fascia. Think of it as the body's internal internet, a communication highway that's either working for you or against you. And here's what most grassroots players don't understand. Traditional stretching barely touches it. Those 30-second static stretches you've been doing since you were 12, they're like trying to untangle a fishing net by pulling on one corner. You need a completely different approach. Watch Luka Modric move. Not just when he's on the ball, but watch how he transitions from a sprint to a sudden direction change. There's no stiffness, no mechanical braking and starting. His body moves like water, like every part of him is connected in a seamless flow. That's not just fitness or good genetics. That's fascia working at the highest level. Now, compare that to how most amateur players move. There's a choppiness, a disconnect between upper and lower body, a stiffness that appears around the 60th minute and never really goes away. The difference isn't talent, it's tissue quality. When your fascia is hydrated, elastic, and unrestricted, force transfers through your body like a whip. When it's dehydrated, stuck together, or scarred from old injuries, you're trying to generate power through concrete. Your muscles might be strong, but the wrapper around them is strangling their potential. The reason fascia changes everything comes down to something called tensegrity. Your body isn't held together by bones stacking on top of each other like a building. It's a tension system, like a tent. The poles push outward, the fabric pulls inward, and the structure holds because of balanced tension. Fascia is that fabric. When one area gets tight, restricted, or damaged, it doesn't just affect that spot. It creates compensatory patterns throughout the entire network. This is why your knee pain might actually be coming from a restricted hip, why your shoulder tightness could be causing lower back issues, why that ankle injury from 2 years ago is still affecting how you strike the ball. Your body is trying to maintain balance in the tension system, and when one area can't do its job, everything else has to work harder. Most players treat pain like it's a local problem. Ice the knee, stretch the hamstring, tape the ankle. But if the real issue is a fascial restriction 3 joints away, you're just chasing symptoms while the root cause keeps pulling your body out of alignment. Here's what you need to burn into your memory. Fascia responds to slow, sustained pressure and movement, not quick, bouncy stretching. If you want to create real change in this tissue, you need to think in minutes, not seconds. You need to add heat, either through movement or literally through temperature. And you need to move in multiple directions, because fascia runs in diagonal spirals through your body, not in neat, isolated lines like in an anatomy textbook. This is why foam rolling became popular, but here's where most players get it wrong. They roll back and forth quickly over a muscle, spending maybe 10 seconds per area, and wonder why nothing changes. To actually remodel fascia, you need to find a tender spot, apply pressure, and stay there for 60 to 90 seconds while you breathe deeply. The deep breathing matters because fascia is full of mechanoreceptors that respond to pressure and stretch. And when you breathe calmly, you signal to your nervous system that it's safe to release tension. Let me give you a protocol that will transform how your body feels. I call it the spiral release system, and it targets the major fascial lines that matter most for footballers. Start with your feet, because this is where force enters your body every time you plant, cut, or jump. Use a lacrosse ball or a hard massage ball and stand on it with about 70% of your body weight. Find the tender spots along the arch and the outside edge of your foot. When you hit a spot that makes you wince, that's not weakness, that's a fascial adhesion. Stay on it, breathe, rock your ankles side to side slowly. Spend 2 full minutes per foot. I promise you, after the first session, you'll feel taller. Your ankle mobility will improve instantly because you've just released the foundation of your entire posterior chain. Next, move to your hips, specifically the TFL and IT band on the outside of your thigh. This area gets brutally tight in footballers because of all the lateral movement, but most players roll it incorrectly. Instead of rolling back and forth, position the foam roller perpendicular to the IT band, find a hot spot, and then rotate your entire leg internally and externally while maintaining pressure on that spot. You're not rolling, you're creating a shearing force through the layers of fascia. Do this for 90 seconds per side. The first time will be uncomfortable. That discomfort is years of restriction starting to break up. Cristiano Ronaldo has talked about his recovery protocols, and while he has access to technology most players don't, the principles are the same. He's obsessive about tissue quality because he knows that muscle strength means nothing if the fascia around it is locked up. Now, here's where it gets interesting for performance. There's a specific fascial line called the posterior chain that runs from the bottom of your feet up through your calves, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, all the way to the back of your skull. When this line is functioning properly, it acts like a catapult. Every time you load into a position, whether that's decelerating from a sprint or preparing to jump, this fascial chain stores elastic energy. Then when you explode into movement, that energy releases and amplifies the force your muscles create. This is why some players seem to have effortless power. They're not necessarily stronger, their fascia is acting as a natural spring. But when this chain has restrictions, often from sitting too much, old hamstring strains, or chronic lower back tightness, the spring loses its tension. You end up relying purely on muscular force, which is slower and less efficient. Kylian Mbappe's acceleration isn't just about fast twitch muscle fibers. Watch slow motion footage of his first 3 steps. Look at how his entire posterior chain loads and explodes in one unified wave of movement. His calf, hamstring, glute, and lower back work as one synchronized unit. There's no energy leakage, no segments moving out of sequence. That's a fascial system that's been trained, whether intentionally or not, to store and release elastic energy. You can develop this same quality through a technique called loaded stretching. Take a lynch position, but instead of holding a passive stretch, you're going to add resistance. You can use a resistance band anchored behind you, or simply push against the ground aggressively with your back foot. Hold this loaded position for 45 seconds, feeling the stretch through your hip flexor and quad, but also feeling your muscles firing to maintain the position. This teaches your fascia to remain elastic even under tension, which is exactly what happens during sport. Pain is where all this becomes real for most players. You've been dealing with a nagging issue for months, maybe years. Could be plantar fasciitis, could be chronic hamstring tightness, could be that weird clicking in your hip that trainers can't explain. In almost every case, there's a fascial component that's being missed. Fascia can develop trigger points, which are small areas of constant muscle contraction wrapped in restricted fascia. These trigger points refer pain to other areas. The classic example is a trigger point in your glute that creates pain down the outside of your leg, mimicking sciatica. Players spend months treating the leg when the real issue is in the hip. The solution is specific pressure on the trigger point combined with movement. Use a tennis ball against a wall, find the exact spot in your glute that recreates your leg pain, and then slowly move your hip through its range of motion while maintaining pressure. The first session should last 3 to 4 minutes. Many players feel immediate relief because you've just interrupted a pain pattern that's been active for so long it became your normal. There's something else about fascia that changes the game. Hydration. Not just drinking water, though that matters, but actual mechanical hydration of the tissue. Fascia is mostly made of collagen and water. When it's well hydrated, it's slippery and elastic. When it's dehydrated, the layers stick together like pieces of wet paper. This is why you feel so stiff first thing in the morning. Your fascia has been motionless all night, and the layers have started to adhere. Dynamic movement creates a pumping action that forces fluid through the fascial system. This is why a proper warm-up makes a dramatic difference. You're not just raising muscle temperature, you're hydrating your fascia, making it slippery and responsive. The best warm-up for fascial health involves movement in all 3 planes: forward and back, side to side, and rotational. 5 minutes of dynamic lunges, arm circles, torso twists, and leg swings will do more for your performance than 20 minutes of jogging. Kevin De Bruyne rarely looks tight or restricted even in the 90th minute of a match.
Part of that is conditioning, but watch his training footage. He's constantly moving, never static. Between drills, he's bouncing, shaking out his legs, rotating his torso. He understands intuitively what science has proven. Fascia responds to frequent, varied movement. The worst thing you can do for fascial health is sit still for hours and then suddenly demand explosive performance. This is why so many players feel heavy or sluggish in their first match of the week. Their fascia has stiffened from days of relative inactivity, and no amount of stretching in the 15 minutes before kickoff can fully reverse that. The solution is simple but requires discipline. Every hour, spend 2 minutes moving. Body weight squats, arm circles, cat-cow stretches on the floor. Keep the tissue mobile throughout the day, and your performance windows will expand dramatically. Let me give you the biggest paradigm shift about training your body. You've been taught to think in terms of muscle groups, chest day, leg day, core work, but your body doesn't function in isolated muscles. It functions in chains, in spirals, in integrated movements that require coordination across the entire fascial web. When you train movements instead of muscles, when you prioritize tissue quality over just tissue size, you unlock a completely different level of athleticism. This is why gymnasts are so powerful, despite often being smaller than other athletes. Their fascia is incredibly well trained. This is why dancers can generate force from seemingly impossible positions. Their fascial chains are coordinated and elastic. As a footballer, you need the same qualities. You need tissue that can absorb force from any angle, redirect it efficiently, and maintain its spring-like quality even when fatigued. Here's your action protocol starting today. Every morning, before you even check your phone, spend 5 minutes on the floor working through what I call the fascial wake-up. Start in child's pose, then slowly transition to cat-cow, feeling the entire posterior chain lengthen and contract. Move into a deep squat hold for 60 seconds, letting your hips open. Finish with some dynamic leg swings and arm circles. This isn't stretching in the traditional sense. You're lubricating the fascial system, preparing it for the day. Before training or matches, add 15 minutes of foam rolling and dynamic movement, focusing on the areas we discussed: feet, IT band, hips, and posterior chain. After training, when your tissue is warm and pliable, that's the best time for longer hold stretches and deeper fascial work. Spend 10 minutes working through tender areas with a ball or roller using the slow, sustained pressure we talked about. The philosophy behind all of this is simple but profound. Your body is not a machine with separate parts that occasionally need maintenance. It's a living, interconnected system where everything affects everything else. When you start treating it that way, when you invest in tissue quality with the same intensity you invest in your skills or your fitness, you create a foundation for performance that can't be shaken. You become the player who never seems to get injured, who can train hard day after day, who still has explosive speed and extra time. That's not genetics, that's not luck. That's understanding that the difference between good and great often comes down to what you can't see. Your fascia is either your greatest asset or your hidden limitation. The choice is yours. Join our Discord community where hundreds of players are sharing their results and supporting each other through this process. And most importantly, take these techniques into your next training session. Feel the difference. Because once you experience what it's like to move without restriction, to generate power without effort, to play without pain, you'll never go back to the old way. This is your body. This is your career. And now you know the secret that separates the players who make it from the ones who wonder what went wrong.